So nice to see all of you. I know it's a very short notice, this webinar. We just decided 2 days ago. And so nice to see a lot of friends who joined. As always, thank you for all your love and support. So we'll begin in a minute. Yes, just give me a minute and then we will begin. So that's about it. In the meantime, grab your coffee because this could go dry very soon, obviously. Grab your coffee, be prepared, and I will take it through. And I'll take my image off quickly. So that's it. Today is, as you know, it's a Diwali day as well. So I wish you, your family, everybody, all the good health and happiness. I know it's been a tough 2 years for everybody. So as they say, nothing lasts forever. So please do stay healthy. That's the thing. So I think we can begin. Let me switch off my. This is just a small attempt from. Okay, let me go back from the disclaimer. Obviously, we are in the procurement mode. So the point here is, this webinar has not been endorsed by Crown Commercial Services or Government Commercial Function, etc. Me and my team thought, okay, team is busy. I know there are many live bits that's happening, and this landed a week later, half term. So CCS was kind to release it half week later than half term. What that means is the meeting then goes back to just go over Christmas, New Year. So that's the thing. But either way, we are where we are. That's the disclaimer. So this has not been endorsed by CCS, and me and my team are doing this voluntarily just to ensure that the framework gets as much reach as possible, and then all the colleagues who are bidding for this gets as much support as possible, even before the tender. So that's it. So as I mentioned here, it's most interesting because in 2015, 2018, and today, most of you might have bid this for a different organization or for the same organization. Because I looked at the list, I think pretty much all the tier 1 bidders are here, which is quite moving for me, because you know exactly what you're doing, and you have been in all the iterations, but for you to take the time to join me and the team here means a lot. So thank you. As it always says, you might have done it for a different organization in the past, but our mission here is just to help you to scale yourself so that you can obviously scale your company. So that's it. Because and the reason, Rob was very kind with this message. The reason is, I think there should be a collective consensus in how the industry needs to operate and how we need to come together to solve bigger problem. 35 billion framework, largest contract in UK. And as I told you early on, if you haven't decided to bid for it, please do bid for it, because public sector will go faster than the private sector, at least for the next 5 years. So, and that's it. So, yeah, there are previous bidders here in 2015-18. There are previous framework winners, and there are previous call-off winners. Obviously, not everybody went on to win it. We will also touch on this. And then there are a few current bidders. And this is what another thing is. I've tried to make it simple. We had 150 slide deck on this, but it was too dry. So I just made it like a little notes for you. So which is available. What we have here is different roles. So you could be, there are some consultants who have joined in. Please welcome to listen, and if it helps your clients, please do. And as you know, there are sales directors, bid writers, commercial directors, and I think there are even commercial services in this. If you are, thank you for joining as well. So please, if you haven't decided to bid for it, but once you bid for it, it's going to be an intense 8 weeks. And that's the message that I want to give you with this, because it's not going to be straightforward. I can do parallel bid and not. So what we have done here is to the maximum. I have pulled, because team has built a slide deck, but I thought let's be human and let's do, how would I read the tender document, and what are the key points that I would like to point out to my board on this tender document, to my team on the tender document, and let's just do it that way. And that's this whole document here. The shading and other things is the way how I operate. And if you manage to get 1 point, 2 point or something out of it, it's a bonus, or it's just for me to refresh and give few other pointers that you can also take it to the board. So primarily, there are 2 key points is here, but I also went through the other things. I am now thinking the pricing and the schedule part, if there is enough interest, more than happy to do a deep dive early next week, because I wasn't able to do it because there are 52 schedules. That schedules plus the pricing metrics, which is slightly different to what it is. I wasn't able to go as much as you want to, but if there is enough interest, at the very end, I'll ask for it. We will do one more deep dive on this specifically early next week. But for now, let's just go through some of the principles. Please take notes because we will be sharing the recording only to the attendees who joined today, plus the template and the other things. What we thought was this: we just thought. We'll put a price tag of £95 for this, and we donate it on the Remembrance Day to the Royal British Legion, because it's Remembrance Sunday. That's small money. We'll just help the colleagues, help the industry, because obviously, if you read the document, Armed Forces Covenant is welcomed. So this is a small part. If that helps, if you want to notes, there's a small tag of 95, which you'll donate to the Remembrance Sunday to the Armed Forces. That's it. So a very quick wrap around on this. It's for central government, but as you can clearly see, the introduction of Lot 0, 1A, 2A, and 3A means A is not only catered for SMEs, but B, it also supports the likes of education and schools. Schools and the local councils and colleges, where you normally see the spend never crosses more than $1.5 million ish, at max 3 million. So you can clearly see the framework on one end has got a lot of improvements from the previous iteration from the supplier side, which I'll touch wherever I can, comparing the previous iteration to this one. Plus, it also improved from the buyer perspective as well. Point to note here is a multi-supplier framework, which means there is no restricted cap on how many suppliers can enter on this. So that's why we just want to go bang on this, because 35 billion spend. Why 35 billion? Because many of the contracts that was outsourced in 2014-15 didn't come through on the 2018 iteration, which kind of put off some of the suppliers last time. But this time there is a lot more that will come to framework, and plus there is a lot more buyers who CCS is tapping into. My point here is just to try to close the gaps and then share the messages on both sides. So point here is immediately after the framework, you have a call off. As you know, last time, once we bid for the stuff, then there is clarifications outside. Then immediately we have the HMRC bid. So be prepared. And don't just think it's just a framework. There will be some call-offs that will be come out on the, which will be coming to the buyer. So here the framework is for 48 months, 4 years, starting April. And as he pointed, this last time it was 3 lots. Now it's 9 lots. So, and also last time it was total contract value. Now it's annual contract value. So it might be much more accommodative to the other public bodies who procure that way. So you know this already, refresh this, take notes if you prefer. So first one is FM, TFM, the lot 2 is hard FM, and lot 3 is soft FM. So it helps the cleaning security companies to go for it, but still when we touch the mandatory and the optional services, it's not as straightforward. But again, from commercial services is not one entity trying to buy it for themselves. They're buying it. They need to make it standardized so that it could be preferable model for others. So there will be some generic content, and there is generic content here. But hopefully the call off will be much more specific than this. But from last iteration, this iteration, I personally think there are some great improvements on this. So decide your lots, but I will touch some interesting points. So TFM is lot 1, and hard FM is lot 2, and soft FM is lot 3. So even though you could, as it says, there is multi-framework contract. So what that means is there is no cap. So in each of those lots, there is no cap on the individual suppliers who could be in these lots as well. Having said that, so pretty much, rather than me trying to second guess, I've just written exactly what's written. You can submit all of the lots. However, please note that if you're successful on all lots, you will be restricted from being awarded a place on not more than 2 of the 3 lots per lot, which means it's going to be TFM hard FM or TFM soft FM or hard FM soft FM. So I know last time pretty much most of the tier 1 suppliers, they used a different legal entity to bid to enter different lots. Just to let you know, if you plan to do this time, which I wouldn't recommend, pick your lots, you might be excluded. So the last thing you want to do that is the legal entity that you pitched for, say hard FM, soft FM, and then but you are a hard FM company, just in case you just added soft FM with your partners. But if you want to be part of TFM hard FM, imagine if the entity that you wanted to get in strike is being striked off, which is TFM hard FM, and only hard FM soft FM, which is the subsidiary that you try to enter, just so that you are not missing out on opportunities, is the one that goes in. Just beware of this, because CCS is absolutely aware of this. So when you are designed to go for it, go for 80-20. Where do you think 80% of your opportunity is going to be, and choose those lots. So you don't want surprises halfway through and then said, oh, sorry, you can only pick 2. And there is only one legal entity that you could go for as well. This is after contract, so we don't want that thingy. So just keep that in mind. So timelines, as we go for the timelines, it's very interesting. Clarification questions. Now, I've gone back to the very basics, because we have bid for different organizations. I bid for myself for when I was the strategy director with few friends here. You know who you are. 2018, we bid again with 2 organizations, then FDIS, then estates framework, you name it, then accommodation framework. We pretty much did all the bids. So if you have experience on these things, there is nothing unusual. Standard stuff is standard stuff, and then you will know the other things. But either way, here, please do keep a note of this. I know you might have already done this, but let me revisit. The tender came in, say, Monday. But then you have the clarification questions, which is 22nd. So assuming it came in Monday, say it's 1st of November, the tender goes in on the 4th of January. You might be thinking you have an 8-week window with the 10-day break for Christmas, because again, bid team might need to work around it. It's unfortunate, it's not fair, but it is what it is. But you have your governance and you have other things. But even before that, people who know clarifications last time, there were 960 clarification that was received within first 2 weeks of the procurement. So today we are in 4th of November. So by 22nd of November, most probably, remember that for 3 lots, today we have 9 lots. And there are a lot more suppliers who will be bidding. Whether they continue to submit, especially on the SMEs, is a question mark, but there will be questions. So the challenge there is I'm sure CCS will be prepared, because last time it was the first attempt that they went with this square meter pricing, but this time most probably they'll be prepared. But just give yourself that risk mitigation, whatever you call it, in your bid time scale, that until 22nd of November, when the bid deadline comes up, deadline for clarification is only 6th of December. Which means if 17th or, if the Christmas break, say, for example, if everybody closes on the 23rd, which is the Thursday, which is the last day, then you have close to 3 weeks to revise your pricing, revise your quality submission, revise anything and everything, take it to your board before Christmas, get it approved, and then use the Christmas break to write, price, finalize it, one more approval just before submission on the 2nd or 3rd, and then submit it. So you don't have 8 weeks, you might have 3 weeks. So be prepared for that. And so as soon as that's the reason for this webinar, and there's many things, if you have any questions, please do ask it straight away. And I'm sure CCS will be not waiting until 22nd. Most probably they'll be coming early on within 24 to 36 hours to just answer more and more. So what that means is, will the procurement be delayed? I don't know, but it depends on the amount of questions. It depends on the stress that the suppliers are going to go through. But certain elements, regardless of the framework, is only quality and pricing. But there are certain elements we all know will not change. So which we can work on it. And not everything will impact the pricing as well, which I'll touch it gradually. So what you can do between now and November, which is not going to change now and end of November, and what are the clarification questions that might impact your pricing and things. So work accordingly, resource accordingly, so that you are at the right place. So as I mentioned here, use the e-sourcing tool and to do that. But last time there was some issues where actions log, if I don't know whether you you remember that, some responses were in the website, some responses were in a different portal, the e-sourcing portal. So it became a full-time job for the teams just to understand, hey, where is the clarification response to what that document, revised document. Remember, there is already a lot of documents that's been uploaded. The revised documents, if it gets uploaded, where is it uploaded? So you need to have a hands-on bid manager, bid coordinator on this pretty much full-time, who might not even be writing the bid, but managing this workflow, managing this input, sharing with his inputs, etc. Please do prepare for that. And because when things move on the other side, it have a knock-on impact on your quality submission, a knock-on impact on your pricing assumptions, and so on. So it will be admin heavy to monitor the change, sharing to the wider team, then updating it, asking any further questions, documenting it, bringing it back, and so on. So I'm just repeating what you already know, but I'm just reminding you because this might come again, because that happened 4 years ago. So it's coming back because this is not something. So bid submission deadline 4th of January. As you know, this is over Christmas period. So not everybody, with the current COVID climate, not everybody is there like as they used to do, working 5 days a week, trying to fix it 2 to 3 days a week in office. You understand the logistics, your war room, your bid room, how do you want your Microsoft Teams set up and other things. It will be slightly different. Plan it, who's available, who's not available. I'm just talking through as if I am doing this bid, but it just goes on. So will there be delays? I don't know. But last time there were a few weeks delays. This time, most probably there will not be. But considering the framework has to go live somewhere between April to June, or April 20th is what they mentioned there, there might be 1 or 2 weeks, but I'm nobody to second guess it. But be prepared. There is 3 weeks from now to clarification. And from the time they answer the question, you have 3 weeks. That's what the message that I want to land here. So new suppliers, it might be a total shock for you. But the old suppliers, you might be thinking, hey, we have been doing this for some time, so we know what we are doing. So that's perfect. Remember, we know from our side, there is at least 11 public sector bids in local government, in NHS, in other things that's happening around it. If you're an organization which is structured public and private, so your public team also bid for this. And there is also some private bids. If you're one organization who bid both private and public, just be careful, because don't allocate your resources to work on parallel bids, because this is going to take a lot more resources than you anticipate. And this doesn't end just on the bid submission deadline as well. As you know, there is a clarification stage after submission. Then comes, then you need to be prepared with all the certificates and other things. If you are shortlisted for a go live on the 20th, then you will immediately have 1 or 2 call-off contracts. So be prepared. If there is a possibility, think it through whether you need to create a framework team for the next 6 months. At least one person who keeps an eye on it on an ongoing basis. So it's there. So the challenge is sometimes once you submit a bid, you just forget it. there could be some messages in the e-sourcing portal, because we all moved on last time. I know so many people missed out on sharing their responses to the question because it happened later, because you could also be losing some points or losing your submission on that. But either way, it is what it is. So 8th is the award notice, and framework goes live on the 20th of April. So what that means is CCS has close to 8 weeks themselves to actually evaluate it. So that's why if it gets delayed by 1 or 2 weeks, it won't be delayed any further. But I don't think it will be delayed, but just don't think it will be delayed, because they only have 8 to 10 weeks themselves to make this tender work. So think it through carefully, resource accordingly. And also immediately after the call off, it's immediately after the go live, there could be call off contracts. So also do that. So that's on the timeline part. If there is any questions on this, please do add a message in the chat, because I don't want to talk to myself. It will be good to have some conversations as we go on as well. So have some questions among yourself, what the questions I need to ask to my team, my board, request budget, request resources. How am I going to plan my time? I'm a group sales director. I run the bid. How am I going to dedicate what sort of governance do I need to set up? What dates do I need to set up? Who do we need to be involved? What are the subject matter experts who need to be involved? We'll touch the bid team at the very end. But as I told you, I haven't gone deeper on the service schedules and the pricing as much as they want to. But next week, if there is an opportunity, if there is an interest, we can go deep dive. So you could also see the additional resources that you might need to require on this. But that's the timeline part. Key part is don't underestimate the clarification cycle that might impact your overall timeline. It's not like you start today. Having said that, there are some easy quick wins that you could go, which once we start the quality threshold and the submission, you will start to know that. So quality threshold. Good news is this time, both the quality and the pricing thresholds are different, which is unique to the submission. So what you have here is, you need to score 24 out of 60, and there are 5 sections around it, and we'll touch each of those sections. So 24 out of 60, and that's split in 2 parts, section A and section B. Section A is what they call the core service requirements, and section B is a mandatory question. So if you're bidding for more than 1 lot, the questions in section B only need to be completed once. So which means if you're bidding for 2 lots, 3 lots, good news is you only have to do it once. So, and again, not all the sections in those mandatory section B questions have the same thing, but let's just go through one at a time so that you know what you're doing. But there is a point here, key point here. I'll just read it exactly. So if you have received 0 for any of the quality questions, or if you have not met a minimum weighted quality score of 24 out of 60, we will reject your bid and you will be excluded from the competition, which means you need to have a minimum score in each of the question, and you need to have an overall minimum score for the quality section as a whole. So plan it accordingly. So what are the things? In the service requirements, section A, you have what we call the compliance, which is pass or fail questions. Then there are 2 other questions which you do need to fill out with additional services. Hey, is there anything? I know we captured all the services in it, mandatory, optional. Is there anything else that you could do for the central government? Listed there, but it's not evaluated. Geographic coverage as well, because again, for the call of contracts, as you know, there is a push on local suppliers trying to get most of the local contracts. So it's if you operate in a region, and if you prefer to work on a region, this is where you go more. But most of your national providers, so you can stay with this. But again, some sections have to be filled, but these sections anyway. So this is where you can start to slowly plan your resourcing. Okay, am I going to have a bid writer? Am I going to have a bid coordinator? Am I going to have 2 bid writers, 2 bid coordinators, etc.? Because you just need to plan your quick wins. Who is going to do this section on additional requirements and geography coverage? Test it, dust it, close it, because there is no impact because it's not evaluated. You can ask all the questions on clarifications, update it, etc. But if that's a quick win, find the quick win, pass, fail questions and do. Focus on these. One big thing which I would like to share is when you're answering section B, don't just think that you're answering it just for the framework. Having listening to the CCS webinars myself, these become a planning exercises. The COP26 Net Zero Summit went on. So the submissions or the planning, most of the stuff, you will need to come out with a social value plan. What are you going to do for these things? We will touch those things Next. But just as an example, I'm telling you, what's your continuous improvement and innovation plan? What's your social value plan? What's your net zero plan, etc.? You need to go back and share your quarterly update to CCS, because CCS, as you can clearly see, will not be just be doing the project and passing on to call off. And so they will start to, as you know, if UK it has a set target becoming net zero as a country, somebody needs to monitor how much of the central government is moving in the direction, and that work is done by you. Obviously, that means the metrics that the more detailed you go with that, you plan it through how we are going to approach it, and collectively as an organization that will be measured as well. So that, as you can see, there is a section which we will touch. I mean, there is a charge that will be incurred. So there will be a few hidden costs, but in your case, it's not just you are entering all the good stuff to get into the framework. Please be prepared that it will be monitored and it will also be reported. So when you look carefully on this, 5 sections, as we talked about. First one is continuous improvement and innovation. What content it comes next, but look at it as principle. These are the key sections that you need to go for, in addition to the service questionnaire and other things which will come. So 15%, 8,000 characters, split up into 4 sections. So that's 2,000 characters. There is no work for your designer in this bit. People who are familiar with the CCS framework, you know, you go to e-sourcing portal, you just add the content there. So don't put a lot of time and effort on creating something amazing on continuous improvement, social value, impact, etc. It's more numbers and facts and other things. How we are going to achieve it's going to help. But there could be some attachments, but no other attachments is allowed other than what they specifically asked for. So if there is a space where you prove it in a graphical way, you might need to look for it. But I haven't logged into e-sourcing portal myself and checked it, but that's something that leave it to you. The point here is in the continuous improvement section, it's 15%, 8,000 characters, 4 sections in it. That's it. So 2,000 characters each. So the way it works is a 15 mark. So you need to, your rated score out of 60, because that's an overall mark is 9 marks. So that section you need to score, I don't know, you aim for. This is like an exam, right? I think if what section can you push more, what section you'll be getting less. You need to know that you need to go to score a minimum score, not 0 in each of these things. At the same time, you need to know what maximum you could score on each of those sections. So yes, 100%, Julian. The question was from 30th September 2021, most public sector contracts over 5 million ACV need a carbon reduction plan. We assume this is relevant in RM 6232. 100% it's relevant to RM 6232. That's the point that I mentioned, because your carbon reduction plan will be monitored, measured, and they will be questioning it. Have you achieved it? If not, if that's great, show us where. If you haven't, why not? So these are the marks that you need to look for carefully. So, and you can clearly see the way that they are scoring. It's like 100%. You answered all 4 sections, great. You only answered 3 sections, great. So you scored 75. You answered 2 sections, great. Or you answered all the sections in an average way. So you scored 25, 25. So the pointers are there in the evaluation guide, but I don't want to repeat everything there. So what you have here is continuous improvement and innovation, social value, as expected, 25% sustainability between carbon net zero, or what we call the energy efficiency, and also wastage. You have 50% there. Then you have the other things that split across. How would you do call off contracts, mobilization, which is, as you know, you all have process methodology and stuff. And then you have the service delivery of managing the contract. So this is a standalone element. If I were you, I will give this to dedicated people who can do it, to ensure they get a first draft, second draft, third draft. Because regardless of things, some questions. Let me show the actual questions so that you know what you're talking about. So, innovation, 4 sections. The parts that you need to split across is practical application. How in a practical application of innovation, where did you practically apply it? Remember, case studies and stuff takes time. You might have it, but you need to make it punchy enough based on the service schedule for this client. Reduce costs and adds value. Where have you demonstrated that reduce costs and adds value? Show us how you collaborated to do that. Service delivery continuous improvement. Pretty much as he told you, all of you are tier 1 suppliers. So you might have written it to death, but customize it as it is. You can even go to a different aspect. So you can split those questions. If you want to score the maximum marks, you can split those questions where just not one person write this innovation section. Who's going to write a practical application? One. Who's going to write the reduced cost and added value? Another person. Who's going to do collaboration? Remember, these are unique 2,000 characters. So if one person writes it and you cannot link one answer to the other, these needs to be standalone with themselves. So split it up. So there are 5 units here. So social value, again, apprenticeships. What are you going to do with working with local suppliers? Are you employing any people from the disadvantaged community? And you are not just employing them, how have you given them work progression in your thing? So it's something that you need to write, it's something you need to measure, it's something that you need to prepare to continuously do. Sustainability, 3 sections. This is where, interestingly, sustainability section scoring is slightly different. Sustainability section scoring is actually higher than the other things, which means it's 33, 66, 100. It's only 3 sections. So, that's where I think all of you, I believe, will score a lot more on that. So reduce greenhouse emissions and carbon net zero planning, and reduce energy consumption and recycled waste. So you can either do it yourself or you could ask for external help, because there are lots of people who are working on this. So point here is split it up. And these 2 are related to your actual service delivery and the way you're going to mobilize it. This is unique to your own company, your way of operating. Knowledge of the public, again, this is very interesting. I will touch it. Last time there was only public sector contract. As you know, we have 300 slides on public sector contracts. We recently tried to download that, distill it into bytes by bytes, but even then it came to 300 slides. It's not something that's easy to digest, and at the same time, the contracts are non-negotiable. You could ask questions about the contracts. It's in the contract today, but you can't mark it up and say, we agree, we don't, you can't negotiate. So it's very clear, typical CCS. But that's how they operate. And then in addition to that, this year they have accommodated NEC 3 and NEC 4. So there are links which is there, and it's £65, £62, £50. You could download those contracts as well and read what that means to you. If you have enough time after reading the 80 odd stuff that you need to read anyway. But again, why it's important here is you need to demonstrate your knowledge. Where have you have run contracts with the NEC 3, NEC 4? Where have you done contracts with public sector? Which means if you're already part of CCS, that will be a tick. Then how do you ensure that over the lifetime of the contract, you keep the service delivery? Your plans to achieve KPIs, how do you monitor progress, mitigate risk? Those are fairly straightforward. But again, considering individually it's 2,000 characters, you need to go at least 4 different drafts versions on this. So it cannot be a fluffy, I'm sorry to use those words, but it cannot be a generic response. It needs to be very, very real to score the maximum, because the good news is you are not competing against each other. You are just competing against you on this tender. What's the maximum score? Am I going to get it? Because everybody is a winner on this, because everybody is going to enter the framework if you hit the score. It's not like only 5 will go through. Everybody's going through. So on that perspective, you don't need to worry much about the competition. You just need to worry more about, am I giving the best shot from the knowledge library do I have? If I don't have it, who do I need to go to get these information? And as you can see here, resourcing wise, plan it carefully. Who is going to manage innovation response? Who is going to manage? If one person does it, believe me, I think your chances are not going to be as much as you want to go, because maybe service delivery is one, mobilization is one, sustainability, 100% dedicated person, social value, dedicated person, innovation. And I say dedicated person is, let them focus on this one response alone, because 20%, 25% is that one, 25% is this. And then the rest of it's 15, 15, 10. So plan it accordingly, resource it, but that's where things are. So, okay, perfect. So next one. As I mentioned here, you do need to go and write the individual sections in these boxes. No attachments are permitted. Any additional documents submitted will be ignored. That's why I'm telling you, rather than to, again, that's an unfortunate situation. You might have that explained in a nice graphical way, but it is what it is. I'm sorry. And so, so we have to just go through this. So let me go. Right. So next is the pricing. Any questions so far on the quality side? Or you had enough already on a Thursday morning? Thank you. If you can, please do top up your coffee, keep going, and we'll just go from here. So pricing threshold. So as I'll raise my hand, I haven't done detailed pricing spreadsheet analysis on individual lot 1, 2, 3 templates. Again, if there is enough interest, more than happy to have a look at it. And team have done a lot of work, but they have it in, they have got 15 different slides. They have just digested it, put it in different parking. But I thought on this one, I'll have a go. So that's why you have all the shadings here. Apologies. So point here is, again, your price should compare with the quality of your offer. It's very interesting statement, but if you go and read the actual submission or the spreadsheet, you're going to see square meter pricing, hourly rates, and all the other things. So this is where what's not mentioned here, you need to have a solution person, somebody who could digest the service schedule, who could translate what that means to the estimator, and somebody who can then take it and add it inside the overall thing, because it's not a traditional bid. Most of you have already done it in the past. You might have experience, but pricing hasn't changed vastly, but the way the evaluation is done is changed, which we will touch. So, but you know how much effort it takes on the pricing, which I'll touch at the very end, because this is very, very intense process. And some industry friends I know have started this in July this year. I will explain what they did. So what happens here is, remember, you can approach pricing separately, but there will be a dot to other parts of the schedules, and there'll be a dot to the 5 sections that we just talked about. So for example, as just one thing, you wrote all these things about social value, right? But in all these things, if you go and calculate it, how much is the square meter price for ventilation, heating, etc.? So there is no price. You need to cost your social value. You need to cost your innovation. You need to cost your mobilization. Or are you going to cost your mobilization? Are you going to cost your social value? These are the interesting conversations you just need to go. But the advantage is this time is the price that you're submitting is the maximum price. So we will look into that. We will look into that. So price submitted will be the maximum payable under this framework. Prices may be lowered at the call-off stage. So it's a key point, and be prepared. Yes, at the outset, it could be just filling a pricing template for those individual services, but there could be, you might not be, I will touch it at the very end, you might not be delivering all these services. You might have a preferred suppliers who do that, or you might have subcontracted those things. You have to go back, ask quotes from these guys, which means you might need to do a mini tender among your own preferred suppliers to get these answers. And they might not be familiar in providing ventilation cost and square meter pricing. I know many of you might be laughing behind, because I know that's the pain that you all went through last time, and the pain continues, unfortunately. So all core services must be priced on a standalone basis. So you must not add it like, with this buy one, get one, if you get that one, 20% reduction, and so on. So you must not price under you must not underprice a core service with the view that the service can be delivered with another service line. So please price it as it is, so that I'm sure it's, it helps CCS on benchmarking, because those poor people on the other side, if there are 60 suppliers who are bidding for it, they just need to somehow digest those information, put that, like, who's doing what, and then take it to the buyers for the call off, etc. So point there. There is pricing matrix 3, as you know, depending on the lot that you're going through, you just need to do that. And then finally, it's once you have done it, you just need to upload into the sourcing portal. In fact, it's face value straightforward, but it could be challenging. So let me go through this. Bidder submissions will be evaluated against other bidder submissions. So again, in the how to bid part of the thing, we have given lots of metrics, they've given lots of evaluation. I'm not going to go deeper on that. Either way, it's based on an optimal value. So in the individual scoring elements in the tab, if you want, I can open the pricing metrics pretty quickly. Let me start a new share. Okay. So this is one of the pricing metrics. I hope you can see the screen now. So what is it? So this is it. So you have, for each of those lots, you have the template like this, and the measures for individual service element is here. Obviously, you cannot play with the spreadsheet and change any formulas or anything. But as you can clearly see, these are the different measurements that it goes through. And then these are the different building types. I will touch it in the commercial considerations, the challenges behind these things. And then, so because it's not for one site, there's different things. Again, it's the same as last time. The same as last time. The only thing is, no, it's based on optimal value, which we'll touch. So then there is the additional thing that goes in there, any variance. So this is the fixed one. How much is it extra for London variance? I know some of the colleagues had these challenges last time, or pretty much the whole industry had it last time, which is like, hey, I don't know if this is for a hospital in London or a commercial building in London versus it's in Manchester, because price there is very, very different, or in Scotland, etc. But now it's been constructed differently. But overall, the template hasn't changed that much. So you have the evaluation here. This is the thing that you will need to go for, and then add your inputs, square meter pricing for individual services. And is a core service, which means you have to provide. That's the challenge, because SMEs will still find it slightly more intimidating, I think, because if they might not be able to do everything in it, but it is it's there. From CCS perspective, they cannot make it too, they cannot go too lower as well, because they already have 9 lots. But they can't do like 36 lots or something, but it's there. So look at these things again, one with overhead and profit, one with a standard weighted percentage, again with the different buildings as well. So you will need to price it for different buildings for individual services. You can clearly see the impact this is going to have to an estimator. A, for example, I'm going to do mechanical and electrical. This is just a template that I took, hard FM version 1, so lot 2A. So if it's mechanical and electrical, I need to understand, okay, how much is it going to be for one building type? Then I just need to do the same thing for other building type. Map that out with the, I don't know, this, the 12 or 15 different services here with 13, that's 12 into 15, close to 180 different cost permutations that you need to do this. So it's very intense. I think if you haven't done that before, it's this, and as you can clearly see, every single cell here, if you have done it, it will say conformant. If you haven't done it, non-conformant. This is a test, it's a check that goes in there. Now, please don't underestimate the work that goes in here, but let's just go back to the actual pricing. So the point here, as you can see here, let's go, and the evaluation is done there. I did try to understand evaluation. I wrote notes somewhere, but please do take your time to understand how the evaluation works. So some sections, as you can clearly see, for TFM, the number of separate scoreable elements, as you can see, it's 66. So you need to add 66 inputs if you are bidding for TFM. In hard FM, it's 35. So collectively between TFM and hard FM, if you're going together, you need to go for 100 inputs. That's the thing that I look there. And then if you're soft FM, that's 46. So the different scoring, or if 100 marks is the maximum, and if you need to add the 66 inputs, it's flat line, which means every point is 0.6. So and the overall thing is 40 marks that you need to score, and this is where your mark will be done. And again, it's very interesting point here is The marks will be awarded to each scoreable element based on the variance of each bid from the optimal bid value. So the optimal bid value, I don't know who will be that lucky company, or it's like, I know who will be able to come out with an optimum bid value. From experience, again, from running central government contracts or running other contracts across the geography, if you have done this analysis, again, this is what companies started early on to just do the benchmarking of their own estates. Take different examples like 100 buildings within their own portfolio in different regions, benchmark all these services across, what's the costing to find that optimal bid value, and then decide what are the loaded costs that I need to add, and then make a judgment whether I need to load it or not. It's a step that you need to go through. That's it. So points awarded to variances above the optimal value discounted by 30% in compared to equivalent to below. So again, there is a thing there. So if you score somewhere in there, again, this is in how to bid section. I don't want to repeat the entire thing again, hence the thing there. So it's there. So you need to get this. Before it was like the cheapest. It's still the most economically advantageous tender principle, as you can expect. But this time it starts from a median values. It's not the cheapest bid, it's an average bid. So what that means is if you are too cheap, you're going to lose mark. If you're going to be too expensive, you're going to lose mark. But it's not as bad as trying to undercut each other and trying to do whatever you are doing. So please do understand how the price evaluation works. And then see the impact of your quality score, which there's the 5 sections plus any other sections, the service schedules to add it to your price. I will list few pointers that you might need to consider later on in these things. Then what happens, we will then rank all the final score from highest to lowest. We know the rank from last time, and you know the rank from last time. So it will be giving you a good hands-on. But for the new bidders, please don't underestimate the work it requires. You will not get it as a right or wrong answer. You know, it's just something. At some point, you'll go with the gut feeling. Believe me, this is it. So once the framework contract signs, then your price is binded, and then for the call of contracts, it just goes whatever it goes. So keep this in mind, because there are certain certificates. So now let's go back and to the logistics again. If you want to go deep dive on pricing and the service schedules, more than happy early next week. We'll just sit down because the team has done the work, but I haven't put as much thoughts. So, but we can go through this so that in your mind, you could have the clarity and you could pass on to this to the team. So the conclusion, once your framework is done, you need to have these certificates. There is a slight challenge. If you have a Cyber Essentials certificate, basic is a self-certification. There is a slight change. Any certificate issued under the old scheme will expire, which is already expired by now. So just have a look at the validity of your Cyber Essentials, because it could take up to 8 weeks. So again, these are the things. The ones you are on a call of contract, you should demonstrate that you have all these things in here. Insurance certificates, which is in questionnaire. Then you have the ISO for a lot. Again, this is only for the bigger contracts, which is the 10 million plus ones, or 7.5 million plus ones, the third ones, and the quality assurance, which is the old one, and ISO. If you haven't got these certificates, now is the time to roll the ball, because you are at the mercy of these certification bodies to just get these certificates. So evaluation criteria, we already talked about it. Most economically advantageous, and 60 marks on the quality, and price is 40 marks. So the additional attachments. So now we only saw the quality and the pricing part. You might have already thinking, how am I going to allocate my resources? Because those are standalone. Selection questionnaire. Most of you might have already completed the selection questionnaire, but please, if you don't have, try to push it through in the next 2 or 3 days, because some of the certificates and stuff we don't have, it's tough. Apply and get on with it. But this is a tick, because only if you successfully pass the selection stage, you will even proceed to the so-called award stage, which is, as you know, is what we talked about in that section A and section B early on the quality and pricing. Few more certificates that you need to collect here. This is a self-certifications. Can you actually deliver this? You just go line by line. And you are required to submit completed certificates of technical ability for each lot you're bidding for to demonstrate your professional ability. You just go and say, yes, we can provide, yes, we can provide. You must get the customer to verify that the information you have provided is true and accurate. So, and the same thing with the past performance as well. You must request the buyer you have provided the relevant principal services as described in 2D to complete this attachment. So these three things, you might be thinking they are straightforward, but this is another standalone piece, nothing to do with the service questionnaires or nothing to do with the quality or pricing. You need to have someone to handle this carefully, because it's not like getting a reference. Any buyer whom you're going to go for, they need to vouch it, they need to sign it. They might, your connection or your account person over there might not have the relevant authority to sign it. You might need to take it to his board. You know all these things over Christmas where that's going to take you. So to pull it out, take it as a separate thing, and then see whether you could run it in parallel, immediate. These are the things which is not going to affect your clarification questions, or most probably if there's one or two, it won't be, but otherwise it's fairly straightforward section. So between now and the 22nd, service questionnaire certificates should be straight on in it, because again, this is not different to any of the previous CCS frameworks that you're going forward. We already touched the geographical boundaries and additional services. Again, not evaluated, but you still need to keep an eye on and complete it, because if you don't complete it, then obviously you're not compliant. So price matrix, you must complete the price matrix. We already saw that, but then comes other things like, if you are, this is a biggie. I mean, like, how do you define a consortia? There are definitions where are you going to work together as a thing, but most of you will be going prime, and then you might have subcontractors. But does your subcontractors needs to fill any of these things? It's something, have a look, and then if they need to fill it, please do send it, so that they also need to fill those things in there. So these attachment 4, 6, and 7. Again, it's a standalone piece of work. If you overload, as you can clearly see, if you overload, you can already build up the number of resources here. My count is right. You're already looking at the 4th person here, just on the bid manager, bid coordinator, support side. But one person tries to coordinate it, it's all good. But considering the clarifications will be hitting on one side, it's a challenge. So work it around. So these 3 things: subcontractor management, getting the things parallel, do it in parallel, and see who's dedicated and try to fill the forms, reach out to them and do what it takes, let alone the pricing. Frequently asked questions is a good one. I haven't listed it here. It's just, feel free to go and read it over there. Guarantee resilience is a key one. And because most of you are strategic suppliers already, most of you are already sharing enough information to cabinet office and others. Again, part of this, if there is any guarantee or anything that you might need to go for with your group companies, you might need to plan it accordingly. So far, what we have looked for is the contracts. We haven't looked at the contracts yet, but what we have looked at it is the lots, the timelines, the quality submission, other tender documents that you need to go with this, and the pricing on a pretty high level. So now comes the wider schedules. I know it's challenging, but please do stick with me, because that's the whole reason me and my team are doing this, is just to give you in bite chunks so that you could start to plan it. Otherwise, you will be overwhelmed with the other things. It's a general thing, it's a collective for the whole industry. So these are the sections. So there are core terms. There are four key elements. It's in attachment 10. Core terms, framework schedules, joint scheduled, call-off schedules, and finally there is something called award forms. These are the other parts. So legal, if again, being a tier 1, tier 2 supplier to the government, you will have a legal, but legal is a pretty intense. Commercial and legal will be full on this. And because it's super important. It's not, as you know, you can't mark up, you can't negotiate, but it's important to do this. Again, the technical solution expert, technical SMEs, they also need to read the framework schedules and stuff. So The call-off schedules at the moment, but this will, it's just principles in there, which is going to give you like, how are we going to price the call-off when it comes live on that. So in addition to that, remember that some buyers will also utilize not just the core terms, but they will utilize these two, which is the NEC3 and NEC4. So that's it. So primarily, it's here. It's the same thing written here. So what you have here is, if you go deep dive on these 4 sections, you're going to find 50 plus contracts, 50 plus, and not all. Again, some I've just highlighted here because if you go and read the document, you will know some are optional, right? Even though they say NEC3 and NEC4 are optional, part of the quality submission, you still need to put your understanding of NEC3 and 4. So I wouldn't take it as a kind of just take forward. But again, priority wise, start with all the black ones here, and then you have the blue ones, which is like, it's not mandate. The right word there is, is it optional? Yes, no. These are being quoted as optional. So again, you read it. I haven't read it. As I told you, schedules, I haven't gone deeper on this, but if you want to, these are the things. So the black ones absolutely must. The blue ones are the optional part. But this is where the interesting thing comes in. You go and have a look at the pricing. This is a quick scan. You go and have a look at the pricing. You need to cost it based on how you're going to deliver the service. If you're going to deliver the service, you might have it from your experience in delivering similar in your previous building types, in some of your other contracts. Or if you're subcontracted, you might need to give some specification to those guys to just get the quote in, then add with yours, margins, overheads, etc. I already told you that there is a quality impact on this, where we have to look into what's the social value, what's the mobilization, what's the other thing. In addition to that, these are some of the other things that you might need to think that might impact your pricing. ICT services, continuous improvement, transparency reports, which you need to provide. Because remember, you're not walking away from bidding this. There is an ongoing cost to service this framework. And these are some of the elements that I highlighted, which you might need to, even though they say 2P could be applicable, 2P might not be applicable at this stage, because obviously you're not getting a straight contract now, but there is a 2P surcharge premium and other things, which was a big topic last time, and it continues. But this time CCS is very kind to just say, hey, it could be applicable, but it's up to you to just take a position on this. So these are some of the charges and the additional things that you might incur. Whether you are going to add it in the pricing, you will need to take it with your board. So the NEC3, NEC4 contracts, the link is here. Again, there is a discount code that CCS has given. You could download it to get this, what they call eView. There are versions which are £700, £800 for the entire organization, but the eView only allows you to view. Then there's an e-print version, and there is a print version as well. So but this discount gives you access only to eView. I would suggest, regardless, just have it, and then maybe it's for your commercial and legal team. So these are all the attachments at this stage. So what you have here is, you have the attachments. Do your best to read at least the must ones, or please don't miss out, because there could be some pricing impact on this. And then there are some optional elements there as well. Armed Forces Covenant, I know most of you are Armed Forces Covenant. As you know, even this presentation and the recording and the thing, we're going to donate, we're going to charge a nominal £95, and we're going to donate it to Armed Forces, part of the other thing. So if you are, it's worth registering it, because it's just that pledge is important, and the details have been provided there. So pricing. Now come to the final few pointers, just so that you could start to see, hey, how am I going to structure my team? What support do I need, and what, and bits and pieces. So let's just go through. Point here is, pricing impact, framework schedule 5. If you're awarded a framework contract, you will need to send us management information every month. We will use this information to calculate the management charges you must pay us for sales made through the framework. Most probably, there is a charge for the buyers, and just go and have a read. As you know, I haven't read it fully myself. Is there any charge that CCS will incur on the suppliers as well, because you have got the sales from that? So we don't think 2P will apply to this procurement at the framework. This is the same copy message from commercial services copyright. But in your case, just see what you would like to do on that. So framework compliance, all the contract documents which are highlighted. Looking at the top end, there will be some price impact, but there, but reading it through, you might find other sections that might also go for it. Don't underestimate the other 3 parts, which is on the quality side. There's social value planning, standalone. It's not just quality marks. There might be some cost on delivering those services on behalf of CCS to the wider central government on the framework level itself. If you need to go through, please do. So this is my personal view. So again, whether the industry will have its own view, and I'm sure people will be collecting it. I'm sure BSA will do it as they did last time, because we don't have an industry body. As you know, I've been banging on it for a long time now, hence all these things. So I've already spoke to Gemma and BSA, and we have IFM, who also is doing what they're doing. So collectively, if there is anything we can do, we can do. But the point here is, you should need to be able to evidence all mandatory services. For tier 1, tier 2 providers, you may be able to with some support from your subcontractors, but for SMEs, it's still becoming a challenge. SMEs to collaborate to form JVs in order to they can demonstrate the capacity and capability time frame. As I told you, if you look at it it will feel like 8 weeks, but it's not. It's 3 weeks from 3 weeks to clarification submission. Then once they get the result, once you get the clarification response, it's 3 weeks from the clarification response to submission. In between, you have Christmas, New Year. So if you look at the mandatory services now, please do. That's another work. Go through all the, it's in how to bid section, and it's also in all the schedules. Look at and the pricing as well. Quick activity. Where am I going to self-deliver? Where am I going to subcontract? If I'm going to subcontract, who am I going to subcontract? And then have the contact. Your procurement is going to play a key role. And this is where you're going to find some massive differences in companies where traditional procurement versus bid support procurement. So some people who are part of, I know in some companies procurement, there is a dedicated person who helps to collect costs from the suppliers to the bidding team. In some companies, it's pure play procurement, and you're going to have very interesting conversation with the procurement team on this if you haven't done these bids before. So also now things have been changed. Now is the time to also go back and see solution wise. So far, I've been self-delivering this. Is it time to subcontract it? So far, I've been subcontracting it. Shall I self-deliver it? Then you map that up to social value. Oh my God, price wise, all great for me to deliver self. But when it comes to social value, I might need to share it to some of the suppliers, but I may not. But that might not be making price effective for me. So it's an interesting dilemma between subcontracting and self-delivery, and you map that, overlay that with social value, how that's going to take it through. That's your call, how you're going to make it, but it's intensive, and that's where the big director comes to the picture, whose commercial background will make a massive difference. CCS experience, even more massive difference, and that comes on with it. So there's no mechanism to insert the costs related to this, as I told you. But that's something you can check in the clarification stage or other things. But it might be nice to have something in there. So from my personal perspective, the template is far improved, and the evaluation method for manual iteration, where it was the cheapest bid, but still the variables are there. It's there is lots of ifs in it to come out an accurate value, but most of you has gone through the pain last time. So what is it? You have got the scores from last time. You already won the call of contracts from last time. The lessons from that only. I think we supported 4 companies last time, and it's and everybody has a different learning. It's not an easy thing. The price could be underpriced or overpriced, as I told you. But I'm super curious who is going to get that optimal value thing, and I would love to interview you to understand how you crack that. So building types. these are the building types. So building types, there are 13 different building types. Standard, it's there in the pricing sheet. You will need to have at least one example within your contract to do this. Again, not everybody. If you are new to public sector, then that's going to be, then you need to find ways to look at your current estates in different. Remember, this is not just call center operations here. This could be a call center operation in London or in Scotland or in Wales or anywhere, right? So that's a permutation. So there is 3 permutation. One is the geography, 2 is the service, and the 3rd is the building type. When you mix all these 3 things, you get a multitude of values. Then you need to pick and mix what value you're going to pick it in that square meter price. So it's very interesting. Again, considering soft FM, hospital cleaning now with COVID and stuff will be much more intense. The square meter price for that will be higher. But the good news is the pricing now has now also been marked, as you clearly see, for different building types, which means you can now add it. Before it wasn't. So it was great. So price evaluation, again, it's optimal value. So challenges, how you can get the price on the button. This is where the data analysis is key. From the procurement, you need to build up a cost book, which is, this is the cost of services in these contracts that I have. This is the cost from the suppliers. This is the template. We have created 15, not just this, we even have a standard pricing model that we created for this. It's in our portal, and we designed that for the SMEs, so that it's much easy for them to just say, okay, if you plug these information, the other information will go, say, subcontract self-delivery, and these are the other assumptions that you can go for, that it automatically populates the other one. It's there in our portal, but you have your own dedicated model. Just plan it accordingly and then do it. Each building type will be analyzed separately. As you know, there are 13 building types. It's essential to go deep dive, financial reviews on as many of your existing contracts. As I told you, if you pick just 6 examples, that's 6 into 13, 78. So it's what it is. So so the rates will then be analyzed on an individual basis. But this is where it gets interesting. Why can't you have a person in your company who acts as CCS, who could say, hey, use this as an operational efficiency exercise. I know whether 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you can do it. That's why some companies start slightly early on, but still it's not late. Or appoint somebody, a neutral person who could become the CCS version for you, and then say, here we go, this is it. This work that you are collectively doing might have a massive boost on the way you run your contracts in so many places. Why is it square meter price in Croydon University Hospital different to Croydon Council? Same area, 2 different building types. It is what it is. What's missing there? Or 2 different regions. What's missing there? Is there anything that you could learn and apply? You are going to get some golden nuggets from this exercise. Again, somebody lead this. Not just big team. You might need to have someone within your team or external or anybody to have these operations, come out with these things, past experience to make it happen. The unit of measure, not always square meter, hourly rate, or BIA rates, etc. So as you know, you might be used to having an asset list and doing that. Again, most of you have done the bits before. It's the same. But for new providers, if you're waiting for an asset list to come, tough. I don't think it will come. So commercial thing, and again, this is a point I already mentioned, just as a simple example, right? While I was looking into some of the services, I haven't gone deep dive, but just some of the services, you may self-deliver some of these or outsource some of this. Some services you may have not quoted for before, in which case you have to source new suppliers quickly. So your procurement might ask you to fill a form, then they go back, do a market exercise, 2-3 weeks, they might do something. You don't have time for those things. So who is it going to understand the timeline thing? Who's going to help you to do this? And it could be CAPM, it could be help desk, it could be something that you can do yourself. But there could be certain elements that you always go elsewhere. So this is where a dedicated person to do the building types, to do it, plus the procurement, other things you might need to have someone else to just very quickly look into that. I need to get all these quotes. You're not going to, you need to educate them first of all, because these are things that they might not have done it in the past, because they might not be, your supply chain, as I mentioned here, might be not be familiar in this type of thing. So they might need to go back and price that services in the new format. And you have to then go back and ask them how you have done it. So, all these things, I'm just putting it to your mind. So finally, few parts, the cyber essentials, don't underestimate the time. If you need to refresh it, it could go up to 8 weeks. So go for it, add it, and see what you need to go for. The challenge is, as I told you, there is a lot of, in a traditional bid, you do go for assumptions, your commercial assumptions, pricing assumptions, quality assumptions, you name it. But in this case, there is no assumptions. All your assumptions needs to be within you. And then you just need to confirm, okay, at what point are you going to take risk? What point you're going to load the cost, and then do it. But at least document those assumptions within your log, highlight the risk so that your board, again, this is a standalone work in itself, as you can imagine. This is what the quality guys have written, which is great. This is what the legal has got it from the contracts. This is what the pricing submission looks like now, bringing it all together. That's your commercial person. So that's it. So we are doing that. So that's the point. Yeah, let's move on. Looking at the time, I'm surprised it's still going on. Okay, fine. So again, so far, guys, the RM3830, RM6830, 3830. Sorry, I'm losing my mind. So the previous bidders, 2018 bidders, what you're doing. But again, this is the same thing in steroid, just over Christmas period. Last time you have done things, but now let's just if there is anything that we can do to improve, if there is the opportunity to improve. But for new bidders, yes, this is not your traditional bid. This is not, there won't be clarity on 2P, there won't be clarity on assets, there won't be clarity on anything. This is a framework. So if you haven't done frameworks before, that's why we have been doing all these webinars in September, in May, July, just so that be prepared, it's coming. Because 35 billion, because if you are in it, all the opportunities will only be coming to the framework suppliers. And because there is no cap on this, we want everybody to benefit out of it. But still there is hope, that's it. But again, T's and C's, a quick read. Lot 1A, 2A, 3A, it's a simple T's and C's on that perspective, compared to colleagues who are bidding for, or industries who are bidding for the bigger versions. The other ones, always, there are a few things, as you can clearly see, how the life cycle thing works. Because yesterday, COP26, there is a new policy, UK is going to be carbon net zero in XY date, etc. These things will all be passed through you in the next years or something. So there's the changing law, benchmarking of pricing, the general price and payments, liability caps, life cycle terminations. As you can see, COVID, there were close to 1,400 FM contracts was terminated just in 2020 alone, and it came out in very different form. So what that means is there is a chance. Even today morning you might have read Serco gave a parts contract, for example. So it's real. So yes, it's intense on the quality side, pricing side, selection questionnaire, insurance certificates, and anything else, building types, etc. But this is also real on the terms. So again, now you know how the clarification is going to go, why there was 960 clarification within first 2 weeks. It's all going to come. So few reminding pointers, analyze your building types, minimum sample size, at least based on the services and geography. Decide whether it be subcontracted, that's a dedicated standalone work. So your pricing person shouldn't be involved on this. It's an additional estimator. This is from my opinion, from my experience. You might be short of resources, but the intensity of the work. I'm just giving you the thing. The hard FM, just a simple example, because I picked up hard FM, the other one. How much are you spending on comp and reactive? Across your estates, just go for that. This is a disclaimer again. If how much of the pricing will be impacted by your operational solution. For our rule of thumb, it's always 20%. because you have got your standard costs of operating. You would have done this for a very long time. I've looked at the list of attendees. You have done very, you know your price. It won't be terribly wrong, but it's that additional 20% of your operational impact specific for this that you need to go. So again, that's a little tip, but it might not be a tip, but just plan it accordingly. So your team structure at the very minimum, somebody who has done CCS, which is a gold. If you have this, please keep the person close, because that's a very unique skill set, because a generic bid director might find it more challenging. So then if it's then you need to have a hand-on bid manager who could, as you can see, the work streams. I haven't created a chart of bid team because I don't want to dictate things, but you know where that goes. Who is going to do the service questionnaire part? Who's going to do the service questionnaire part? Who's just going to do that certificates and the other section? Who's going to do the quality? Do I need 4 or 5 people or 2 or 3 people to focus on this? Because that's where 60% is going to come. The building part, who's going to do the pricing, the estimating templates, and then comes the legals, then comes the solutioning, then comes the supply chain, and you name it. There will be HR, there will be IT, and there will be some other elements that you need to go for as well. So, and please don't think this is a part-time role and I can balance it. It will be very stressful, because again, that's something that you might need to manage your team carefully, especially if they are going to work through Christmas, New Year, because it's been hard for most of us for 2 years. It's depending on the lots that you're going as well, your team size might vary. Then you might need to consider additional estimator, or you might need to consider additional bid person, you might need to consider additional reviewer. But in any case, I think whether it's internal reviewer as external in here, it's not just like go somebody external to do it. External could very well be somebody within your company, or some 2 or 3 people within a company who can help you in benchmarking the pricing, reviewing the quality, etc. But external who has got CCS from framework, more than happy. We can help you on that. But on this, the additional support, again, look at it from the other side, how you're going to structure it. This is your dedicated bid team. Who is going to do the quality only? Who's going to do the compliance sections? Because you need to have a selection questionnaire. You need to have certain certificates in place, and all these things, and references. That's a biggie. The pricing templates only, and which lots. The review only. Who's going to do just the reviews to keep it going, so that you move from 25 to 50, 50 to 75, 75 to 100. Then logistics of involving across multiple lots. Now is the time to test your resources. So from my point, if there was a good market engagement from CCS from the very beginning, I mean, like it's this, and then some people thought I even went on to do it for CCS. No, we did it voluntarily, just so that we had enough people in the framework. At the same time, all the hard work that CCS has done, because of the way they are structured, wasn't. We thought we'll be a vehicle. We raised our hand and we just did it voluntarily. And the same thing that we are doing today. Nobody asked us to do this, and we continue to do this. So that's the disclaimer and caveat. Nothing to do with CCS. It's just me and us who just do it. Just to help our community. So framework has vastly improved, but the challenge is, obviously, this is a framework, right? And this will be used by a multitude of suppliers. So there is some level of generalization, commoditization that's there, but that cannot be forgone. But from 3 lots to 9 lots, from to optimal pricing, I think CCS has done a great job on this. But it's just step forward. Maybe next slide, social value, net zero, new quality 60, price 40. It's a positive journey from what they have done, but I appreciate it's a much complicated beast, and be prepared. It's not just the bid, and once you submit the bid, there will be clarification. After the clarification, immediately you might get a call off. Few pointers. That's don't forget the clarification stage. Between now, ask any questions immediately. Set your team. If you haven't done the kickoff, do it, and then digest all these questions. That's the whole point of this, for me to demystify, so that it's helpful for you to take it to your team, demystify, and then take it to your team, collect a clarification. Early CCS gets it, early they could respond, and early you could start to do this, to price and to change things. From our side, I think that these are some of the requests that came from the industry. One is, can we do a one-day detailed workshop so that we all know what we need to do? That's one. Then is just the general reviews on the quality and pricing. We can help you to take there. This is an interesting one. We have created an elite accelerator, which is what we have done is we have sliced and diced the entire contract schedules in bite size in our portal. I wasn't involved. The team did a great job on that in the portal. And then the plan is we just give it to the SMEs so that they can start to do things in their own thing. Then weekly, we have calls with them to just coach them. It will be on a group level, on a coach with them. And it's like £4,500, so they have access to the portal, group level over the 6 to 8 weeks time. And then if they want to have one-to-one additional calls, it's 9,500, something like that. It's just there. Otherwise, it's there. If you want hands-on support on the bed or on demand, it's there. So, some of the works we have done, this doesn't come quickly, right? You just build the expertise gradually. What do you learn from 2015? What do you learn in 2018? What do you learn from the defense that came out of that? The training estate is the same estates framework. Then the net zero social value assessments, again, that could be a standalone interesting piece as well, which is like, how can it be possible? We have 1 or 2 policy colleagues who joined us to help us on this, who's just specialized on this. So I've created this net zero. How can we stress test this, etc. Next week for us is the Accelerator Launch, where this is all the thing that I talked about, the 30-day reboot, all these things. This is just for SMEs. Just we have sliced and diced it, make it user friendly for them, because people who have registered, we just want at least, and not at least, as many people to go through this framework on the SMEs level, because as you know, on your side, it's only 2 lots. Most probably will go for the top 2 tiered lots. For the SME at that light, we don't want anybody not to be present there. So that's the thing that we are going to do here. If you know any SMEs within your supply chain who's thinking to enter this, please do pass it to our way, and we'll just see what we can do. So resources and templates is there. So next week, if there is enough interest, I'll request the team to send a note out. Or maybe you could put in the chat box if maybe Monday or Tuesday next week, if you would like to go a deep dive on the pricing matrix and service schedule, more than happy to do that. So let me know in the chat box number 1 for yes. And if you haven't pressed it, I just say you're not interested. And that means you could get on with it. So if you're interested, just press 1 in the chat so that I know I could get a feel for it before I put my heads down this weekend to just create something useful for you. So this recording and the download, we are going to donate it to British Legion. So the recording is there, but if you wanted notes and stuff, it's a small fee. We just thought, no, let's do something for the society. That's about it. So any questions, anything? Looks like there's not much interest on the pricing matrix and service schedule. It also gives me time. So thank you for joining. Any questions, please do add it in the chat box. But this is a little attempt. Please, as a disclaimer again, CCS has involved it. We are just doing it just so that I know you have multiple bids. Try to take your mind off, try to focus on this in the coming weeks. If there is anything that we can do to help, we are there to help. This is just a simple attempt from our side, but good luck with everything. I think we are 7 minutes early, 7 minutes early. Grab your coffee again and get on with it. Is there anything else that I would, if you want any further questions, you have my detail, and more than happy. I'll request team to send a note out to everybody if there's an additional session that you need on the pricing and the service schedules and the other things. More than happy to do that. That's it from me. Thank you so much. Look after yourself and stay healthy and happy Diwali. Thank you.